people like me. You need people like me so you can point your f***ing fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Okay, we'll start with this. It's fight week. It's fight week for the WBO's lightweight champion, Rhiannon Dixon, and former champion, two-division champion, Terry Harper, in a weekend full of action where the ladies will be taking over this Friday in New York City. Sandy Ryan will be traveling to defend her WBO title against former champion Michaela Mayer that same day, going head-to-head with that same show. Alicia Baumgartner will be defending the undisputed super featherweight crown against Delphine Persoon. And on Saturday, Rhiannon Dixon will be defending her WBO lightweight title against Terry Harper. Steffi Bull, Terry Harper's longtime handler, stated this photo was taken in 2019 after the Vivian Obanov fight in Manchester, Terry's debut as a matchroom fighter. Terry went on to beat a great fighter in Eva Wahlstrom in February of 2020 at just 23 years old. She's held a world title every year ever since, even in defeat. She bounced back and beat a reigning champion. At super featherweight, she had a fantastic reign, winning and defending her titles 4 times in a 12-month period. During the pandemic versus Katarina Tenders, she didn't just break her hand, she snapped it totally in round 3, bit down on her gum shield and put on a great performance. Not just winning, but stopping Tenders with one hand. Never once has Terry turned a fight down and jumped at every opportunity granted to become a 2-weight world champion. We were advised Terry can no longer do the lower weights. She's not shown the form at the higher weights due to the simple fact she just wasn't big enough, and she was at a false weight. Lots of people are sleeping on T. They don't think she's the fighter she once was. At just 27 years old, she's in the form of her life, and next week looks to become a 3-weight world champion.
This upcoming weekend,
Terry, over time, grew to be too big for 130, though still too small for 147. We saw that in the Sandy Ryan fight. Sandy ragdolled her.
how do you say she was too small for 147 if she won a title at 154?
Well, look at who she fought for it. She fought Hannah Rankin. Nothing against Hannah, but Hannah doesn't have the same talent level, the same ceiling as a Sandy Ryan. So even though she beat Hannah at a higher weight, that didn't make her a true junior middleweight. She was just a talented small fighter who moved up in weight. Talented enough to beat a Hannah Rankin at 154, but not enough to beat a Sandy Ryan at 147. Sandy proved Terry don't belong up there.
So now Terry's dropping down to 135.
I have mixed feelings about that, I do. Because if the story was that Terry outgrew 130, 135 isn't that far from 130.
Is she gonna be alright?
Maybe thinking to yourself, well, she outgrew 130, you've got mixed feelings about 135, where should she have gone? I think it would have been more ideal to maybe campaign at 140, but it just is what it is.
She's fighting Rhiannon at 135. She's vying to become a 3-weight champion.
Steffi Bull, her longtime handler, said she being Rhiannon Dixon, will have been forced into this fight. She's never been in a dog fight, never been in a proper fight.
Said this of Rhiannon.
Rhiannon Dixon herself said Terry Harper quit on her stool in her last fight. That's it, isn't it? A dog fight would be my type of fight.
They're both right.
They both are. When Steffi Bull says that Rhiannon Dixon has yet to have been in a dog fight, he's right. And she has yet to have been in there with someone the caliber of a Terry Harper, as experienced as Terry Harper. Terry really is the best fighter Rhiannon will have fought so far. Though at the same time, when Rhiannon says that a dogfight favors her, she's right. She's more the mid-range to inside fighter than Terry. Very effective there with those fast hands and quick combinations. That right hook.
She ought to change her name to Right Hook Riri, because she's got a fantastic right hook, fighting out of the southpaw stance.
Rhiannon Dixon is a southpaw where Terry Harper is an orthodox fighter. You will have heard me say that Terry's best punches are her straight punches, her jab, from the outside coming in, but mid-range to inside, she's not as good as Rhiannon.
Not as fluid.
The speed, the accuracy, the level changes, the bobbing and weaving, ducking under, sweeping hooks. Rhiannon Dixon's sweet spot is mid-range to inside.
She's very good there. So if Terry Harper is coming into this fight with the intention of trying to dog out Rhiannon Dixon, trying to get into a dogfight to push her and make it physical, that actually favors Rhiannon.
I think Rhiannon's got the edge in speed too, faster hands of the two. So if Terry tries to jab her way in with a piston jab, Rhiannon can counter that by leaning off to her right, bringing that left hand down the pipe, or countering that jab with a right hook.
Over the top of the jab.
Bouncing it off Terry's head. I question how durable Terry is, dropping down from 147 down to 135. I know she's young, but that's a pretty steep drop.
Could affect the punch resistance.
She got hit quite a bit in her last fight. I'm leaning towards Rhiannon Dixon to keep the WBO title. I'm leaning towards Rhiannon Dixon to win. If this is an acid test, and it does look like one, it is a step up in class for Rhiannon, I think she's going to pass. She's passed all her other acid tests with flying colors. I think she's going to pass this one.
Nunes is your mandatory. Is that a big world title fight we could see in Belfast?
It's definitely a possibility. You know, I would be more looking at maybe moving up to lightweight and fighting the likes of Lomachenko, Tank Davis. You know, I'm metals that, like, you know, like, I'm in that league. I am right there for any of them boys. You know, if I move up to lightweight, I'm mandatory for Lomachenko's title. So we're just going to have to see. You know, it's all in my hands, and you know, I'm in the driving seat now. So
he knows exactly what he's doing. He's known the whole time, so have the event coordinators. When they asked Sugar Nunez, the IBF's mandatory, to step aside so that that opportunity could go to Josh Warrington, they knew exactly what they were doing, and they knew why, because fighting Josh off of a loss or 2 back-to-back losses or whatever it is a lot more favorable than fighting Sugar Nunez.
So this past weekend, Anthony Cacace, reigning IBF champion, successfully defended the IBF title against Josh Warrington, the former champion who might now retire.
It was a fight that, if you knew anything about the fighters and you knew anything about the situation, you likely would have favored Anthony Cacace to win the fight. And he did. Now he's talking about moving up because he knows what's waiting for him. That for potentially losing to a Sugar Nunez, you might as well try your luck with Vasyl Lomachenko or Gervonta Davis, as you would likely make more money fighting them than fighting him and losing to him. So the IBF title could soon go vacant. That's what I'd see. And if and when it does, they might either elevate Sugar Nunez to IBF champion status straight away or have him fight the next highest ranked contender for the vacant title. That could be Masanori Rikishi of Japan, Henry Lebron of the United States, or Charlie Suarez of the Philippines. Just somebody who's there. There are currently 4 champions in the super featherweight division. There's the WBA champion Lamont Roach, WBC champion Robson Conceição, IBF champion Anthony Cacace, who we just talked about, and Emmanuel Navarrete, holding the WBO. Nobody in this division really seems all that interested in their fellow champions and unifying titles and becoming undisputed at this weight. No, Lamont Roach may be facing Gervonta Davis at lightweight in his next fight. Anthony Cacace's talking about moving up too.
Right.
After Emmanuel Navarrete lost the fight to Denis Berinchyk at lightweight, there was talk of him moving back down and facing Oscar Valdez in a rematch in defense of his WBO title, as Oscar is the WBO's interim champion. There was talk of them running it back, but those talks have since gone quiet, so I'm not sure what's going on with that. Robson Conceição, the newly crowned WBC champion, he's going to be fighting Oshaki Foster again in a rematch of their initial meeting.
So there isn't much going on the unification front, the undisputed front at 130 pounds. Coincidentally,
you can't say that any of these guys are superstars. No, you can't say that any of those guys are here in America would say Naoya Inoue is in Japan.
why'd you bring him up?
Because he's been an undisputed champion 2 times, and those undisputed runs amplified his celebrity. They could amplify the celebrity of any of these champions if they were interested in doing it, but it's clear that they're not. Anthony Cacace would rather roll the dice with Gervonta Davis or Vasyl Lomachenko at lightweight than unify titles with anybody at junior lightweight.
He mentioned Vasyl Lomachenko, he mentioned Gervonta Davis. I don't think he's on Gervonta Davis's radar. I don't think that, but I do think he could finagle a Lomachenko fight on the premise that Frank Warren promotes him and Bob Arum promotes Loma. Bob and Frank have a good working relationship, so there's an avenue there to make such a fight happen.
That could happen. Meanwhile, Lamont Roach is rumored to be moving up to lightweight for a Gervonta Davis fight.
Just like Hector Luis Garcia did before him. And this fight would likely work out the same way the Hector Luis Garcia fight did. So it just is what it is. I can't say I'm at all excited about anything that's happening in this division.
It's turning out to be a dud.
I've got to fight my man, haven't I? Me, fucking rabbit. And I'm going to take all my belts back once again. Guarantee you.
Minus the IBF.
Yeah, I'll get that back as well after. When I fight Usyk in December and beat him, I'll reign all the belts that I should never have lost. And then I'll fight the Dubois and take that off him as well.
That's your plan?
Yeah, that's my plan.
Congrats, Daniel. Good win. I'm happy for you. But if
Growing number of fighters that are now targeting Daniel Dubois after a career-best win this weekend. Frank Warren has insisted that Daniel Dubois does not have a guaranteed rematch clause in his contract to fight Anthony Joshua again next, even though AJ apparently does. But regardless, Warren added that they would be open to discussing a second fight. And I think that most people would favor Daniel now to win the rematch, to win the second fight, though if there is no rematch, there's Tyson Fury, there is Zhang. I'm sure Martin Bakole would love to throw his name into the hat, so how would Daniel fare against those fighters?
We talked about the potentiality of a Fury fight and what that might look like.
Daniel isn't going to give Tyson Fury any respect. If he didn't give Anthony Joshua any respect, barreling forward, looking to let big punches go, he's not going to give Fury respect either. And I still don't think Fury packs as big a wallop as Anthony Joshua does. Daniel Dubois' approach, going in there looking for the knockout, he'd be looking for just that with Tyson Fury. I think the same applies to Zhang.
Bigger puncher, though.
And a well-schooled amateur. Now, he could give Daniel Dubois more to think about in terms of power and counters. He could. The problem with Zhang is that after the first couple of rounds, his output slows. He doesn't throw all that much.
It's the problem for Zhang. The problem for Daniel is his approach. It's working for him. It's working for him now.
Being aggressive and closing the distance, landing big punches, looking for the knockout. The problem is, when looking for the knockout, you run the risk of being knocked out.
He'd be running that risk with Zhang. He'd be running that risk with Martin Bakole. They're big punchers too. In the exchange, at heavyweight, anything can happen. You can hit them, they can hit you.
And I see the usual suspects are having a lot of fun. That Matchroom's golden boy has suffered another loss. They're enjoying that, and they can have fun with that, but it's done.
It happened.
Now Daniel has the same burden that Anthony Joshua had for such a long time. Daniel is becoming more and more the man to beat at heavyweight. And it's not a knock on him, but given his volatile approach that he's basically going in there looking for the knockout, there's a high probability that he could get knocked out in doing that. Let's not kid ourselves. He's been knocked out before.
It's easy to be a slave to the moment and talk about how much Daniel has improved, but we were just talking about how much Anthony had improved. Then look what happened. The heavyweight division is a cruel mistress where anything can happen.
To anyone, Daniel Dubois included. So while this more aggressive approach with Don Charles in his corner may be working for him now, I'm not convinced it's going to work with everyone. So Frank Warren says that they're open to doing a second Joshua fight. For obvious reasons. If you're Frank, you tell yourself, look at what he did to him in the first one. He'll finish him just like that in the second.
A rematch.
If they don't go in that direction, another direction they might go in is a direction of a Joseph Parker fight, because Joseph Parker's been riding high. Joseph Parker racked up a couple of Good wins, solid wins. Dubois versus Parker might be what they do.
They might view Dubois versus Parker as being safer than Dubois versus Bakole or Dubois versus Zhang. They might like their chances against Joseph Parker more than they like their chances against them.
I could see that if a Joshua rematch doesn't happen, a Parker fight might.
How would that fight play out?
Well, I think Daniel's the bigger puncher of the two, the bigger, more explosive puncher of the two. Joseph is more the boxer, where Daniel is more the puncher. Daniel's gonna want to jump on Joseph right away, not dissimilar from what we saw in the Joe Joyce fight. Just barrel forward, letting punches go until you beat him into submission. That's what I think Daniel would try to do with Joseph Parker.
And I'm not sure that Joseph would be able to keep him off. The edge has to go to Daniel in that fight.
The more winnable fights for Daniel at this point, Joseph Parker fight or an Anthony Joshua rematch.
I want to thank every single one of you that's been riding with me. What a roller coaster journey. But you know what the problem is that it's far from over yet. You know, we've done it once, we've done it twice. Doing it a third time hasn't been easy, but I believe it's something I can achieve. It's about making the right steps forward, working hard, improving, and it's got to come from here more than anything. It can't come from any external voices or influences. It's got to come from here. And it's only been a day, but when I sit back and I'm thinking, I know I got a lot of this, man. I know I got a lot of this. So yeah, just a video to say thanks for your support. Thanks for being on this roller coaster journey with me. Keep your seatbelts tight because deep down in here, I know we've got a lot more to bring. A lot more to bring to the game. And long may it continue. British boxing, I appreciate you. We rise up together. Let's go.
Doesn't sound like Anthony's courting retirement in spite of what Boxing Insider Rick Glacier said or what he claims to have heard. It sounds like Anthony plans on fighting on, like he said he would immediately after the fight.
You guys know what I think.
But if this guy's really gonna roll the dice with Daniel again, if he's actually entertaining the possibility of a rematch, what exactly can he change? What can he do differently? Well, maybe he cannot make the same rookie mistakes he made before. It's jarring to me that he even made them. The very first knockdown of the fight, you see Anthony Joshua pulling back in a straight line with both hands down. He gets caught with a looping right. That shouldn't have happened.
So we can sit here and say that that's what he can change, tighten up his guard.
But you figure between him and Ben, they should have known that already. They should have respected Daniel's power already.
Mechanics.
He lands a big bomb in the 5th round. Big right hand, staggers Daniel. Daniel's hurt, looks like he's ready to go. He moves in for the kill, and he shoots the upper, but he didn't set it up.
He tried for a right uppercut, but his left hand wasn't in position to protect that side of his face, so he got countered with Daniel's right.
That finished him. On the face of it, it's a mechanical issue. On the face of it. But should it be for what is an Olympic gold medalist and a 2-time unified champion?
That should be muscle memory at this point.
What seems like a mechanical issue could be something more, and I hate to say it, but it shouldn't have happened, and it did.